So, welcome, beautiful souls, to another episode of Cosmic Conversations. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by two extraordinary beings, Pia and Cullen Smith. It's actually the third time, oh, no, actually the fourth time that we've uh, conversed together over the years. So, I absolutely love catching up with you two. You're just the most amazingly inspiring people. Now, together, they are the voices of Laarkmaa, a loving collective of Pleiadian beings who have been guiding humanity with wisdom, compassion, and practical tools for their evolution. Through their books, their teachings, and their channeled messages and oracle cards, Pia and Cullen have touched countless lives, offering us keys to awakening, to aligning with our natural cycles, and also remembering who we truly are. In today's conversation, we'll explore their journey, their work with the Pleiadians, and how their latest transmissions can support us during these rapidly changing times. So, welcome back, Pia and Cullen.
Thank you, Hayden. We are so delighted to be with you again.
We love our conversations with you because not only are they brilliant together, but you ask wonderful questions. And it's it's a pleasure for us and an honor to be repeatedly with you on your show.
Oh, I wish they all said that. Sometimes you just wonder, you wonder whether they go, why is he asking what a stupid question he's asking? But your journey of connection, could you share the story of how each of you first came into contact with Laarkmaa and how that relationship has unfolded over the years? I know we've touched on this before, but just for new people that are watching.
Well, first of all, Laarkmaa has been working with us for lifetimes. They call it parallel lives rather than past lives. They've been with us for a long time, so we have an ongoing contract with them. We weren't always aware of what they were doing to help us when we were younger. When they started the work that we're doing now as a team, that was a bit of a surprise, but a good one.
We we met some long time ago, and within a very short time, we were given clues, symbolisms, um, pieces of information that we knew was not coming from our hearts or our brains. We knew that it was some kind of wiser, light shedding information. And quite rapidly, we began to understand that someone was trying to contact us. We now call it nudging, because they were nudging us to listen. They were nudging us to be aware of the symbolism or the occurrences that were happening all around us. And it took a bit of time, a few months, as we began to bring our two lives together. And it's just been an ongoing, absolutely marvelous connection all of these years. At this point, it's decades.
But Hayden, we asked them in one of our conversations, we asked them, why us? And they sort of laughed. They do laugh. And they said, well, we've been working with you in your parallel lives. We've been with you forever, but we like working with the two of you because you're so opposite. So anything that you bring forth will be, if you have your opinion or your belief systems get in the way, the other person's opinions and belief systems are going to cancel it out. So anything we bring through the two of you is going to be a very, very pure message. So we have to be touching, and they use the library of both of our minds at the same time to get a pure message to come through. And we like it. It works great.
In the beginning, we both spoke their wisdom. I was an equal speaker, and sometimes in public, we would both speak simultaneously. And it confused the audiences because it would be like a tennis match. They were going, who should I listen to? I mean, here's the same verbiage, the same words, but it's coming out of two people at the same time. We stopped doing that for a while, and only one of us would speak. And then at one point, Laarkmaa just said, look, it would be better if just one of you speaks. And they chose Pia because we think Pia's voice is more melodic than mine. And they don't speak in a verbal language in their society. They speak heart to heart with mathematical and musical tones to each other. And I think Pia's voice is more in alignment with that than my voice. I don't have a booming, very dominant male voice, but I think her voice is more resonant with their energy. So Pia is at this point, the only speaker.
But can't do it without Cullen here. And we have been spending the last 2 decades going around the world and introducing Laarkmaa to people who are interested. It's been our passion. We love it. Now we do mostly everything on Zoom, but we are going to start doing public presentations again pretty soon. And we do personal sessions as well when people want to remove blockages or get some guidance. So we do all of that. And that's our work now. That's what we love.
Oh, that's so lovely. You know, what is beautiful about what you just said, Cullen, is that, you know, I understand what you're saying about Pia's voice. It does have this sort of frequency about it that feels quite celestial or, you know, sort of high frequency. Not to say that yours doesn't, but I can imagine the confusion when you were both talking at the same time. Like in Australia recently, we had there's this couple, they're twins, sisters, and there was a shooting, and they became famous. They went viral because they both talk at the same time, and they were going, "Run, he's got a gun," and they're both like saying it at the same time, and it's quite amusing, you know, to see it. So I can imagine how people might have, you know, been like, "Oh, well, which one do we listen to?" You know, because you're both actually really engaging and you know, full of wisdom. And of course the role of Laarkmaa, you know, for people that are new to your work, you know, what is, you know, their primary mission in communicating with humanity at this time, do you think?
Oh, that's a very simple answer.
They want to raise our consciousness and help us to evolve into the highest frequency that we can be. They've gone through their own evolutionary process and they want to help us move through ours.
They have been here on Earth many times. They don't walk physically among us at this point, but they did historically. They brought the Mayans, the Mayan calendar. They brought the Cherokee in America, the Dogon in Africa, the Hopi. They brought their wisdom to many different cultures and societies. And what those cultures did was say, you are so superior, you are so developed, we cannot be like you. We're not,
must be gods.
Yeah, we're not capable of doing what you do, even though they were saying, yes, you're capable. So they did turn the Pleiadians into gods. And mythologically, if we look back at Rome, Greece, Africa, Native America, Native Canada, Native Australia, many of these societies didn't quite understand that the Pleiadians were here to teach us how to be like them.
They want to teach us how to be cosmic citizens and empower us to embrace all of our gifts. So they don't physically walk among us presently, but they will again. When we get our frequency up, we'll be walking together again.
So we'll be walking together in a, you know, in a physical capacity.
Possibly, yes.
Most likely.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Because I mean, they look absolutely gorgeous because they've got this beautiful long blonde hair and blue eyes and lovely blue clothes. And, you know, we'll all be dressing like them. Won't we? Be like, oh, look at my new Pleiadian outfit.
Well, they do like the color of blue because blue represents trust. And they come to us in various forms of blue because they want us to feel comfortable and feel that we can trust what they bring to us.
Wow.
We think, Hayden, we think the world is going to change dramatically in the next. Laarkmaa, they do not make predictions because they tell us that because of human free will and
Choice.
free choice, that predictions often don't come true. because humanity, whether it's individual or collectively, make alternate decisions which change the impact of what a prediction might have been.
It changes the trajectory of the energy.
But at the same time, Pia and I believe, from a number of different sources and our own intuition, our own guidance, that in the next 3 months to 6 months to 12 months, we are going to experience a relatively, if not completely different world. Things are going to change radically. By 18 months from now, we're not going to recognize what we see as our reality.
Oh, how exciting. I definitely knew a change was on the horizon, but I thought that was going to be the southwest of France for me. But maybe I'm just going to be slipping between dimensions, which would be brilliant. I'm all up for it. And I'm sure most people watching this as well will welcome, the star nations coming together. Because it's about time, isn't it? It's funny because I was actually talking to, I don't know if you've heard of Sasha Stone. I think he was part of the Cosmic Consciousness Conference a few years ago.
Yes.
You know him, yeah? So I was talking to him yesterday and he was saying pretty much the same thing, and it's just inspiring to know that. But he sort of said that, that humanity have been doing a really, really good job, and it's them that they needed to be able to sort of catch up to us, not the other way around. It's not like humans are doing a bad job, that we need help from them. It's like, well, no, he's like, humanity are doing a good job. And the Arcturians, Pleiadians, and everyone, they had to sort of meet us in the middle somewhere, I think. Is that right? Would you agree?
Well, that's a different perspective. And of course, it's always about perspective. Laarkmaa talks a great deal about the Great Split. And they say that what we're going through right now is the time of the Great Split. And there are those humans who are not waking up, who wish to have their attention turned on the way things used to be. They don't want to go forward. They want to keep things like they were. And they're very much out of alignment with nature. They're more in tune with artificial technology. That's one side of the Great Split. The other side of the Great Split is people like you and us and those who are listening and interested in what we're talking about, who are on the path of evolution and ascension. And we are rising up in frequency and consciousness through the work that we're doing. So there's this great divide going on. And because it's a planet of choice, people get to choose. We'll all get to the same place eventually. But some of us are doing an excellent job and some of us are not doing such a good job. It's not a whole group, look how we're doing from Laarkmaa's perspective. They look at us individually to see, are you working to get your frequency up? Are you participating in bringing the light?
There's a really simple and funny analogy here. Some of us are taking the fast train and some of us are taking the slow boat. Mm-hmm. And there's no judgment, there's no criticism, there's no frustration with realizing that it's everyone's choice, as Pia just said. And some people realize that they want to develop as quickly as possible. They want to grow, they want to evolve, and it takes getting out of our comfort zone in order to do that. And what Pia was saying a moment ago, many people simply don't want to leave their comfort zone. They want things to be as they were in a comfortable, I don't know, some people say familiar state.
Right. If it's familiar, it feels safe, even if they don't like it. But if it's not familiar, it starts to feel a little unsafe.
And I proposed a theory some years ago. I've written about this, where I came up with an idea that anything new should be 50% exciting and 50% scary. And that excitement draws us to a new experience, to an unknown. And I think we have to trust the unknown, because the unknown is part of the void. It's that part of our reality that we just have to trust that we're going in the right direction.
It's where all the potential lies. All the potential is in the void of the unknown. And we have to trust that we can manifest all kinds of things when we just trust with it and move with it.
That's beautiful. And you've been taking a bit of a quantum leap in your own, sort of leaps of faith over just recent weeks and stroke months with, you're leaving Cyprus, moving to Hawaii, and then finding yourself in Sedona at this
Yeah,
time. Do you feel that you being in Sedona is is going to give you more access to the this frequency shift that you're talking about, where you're going to be able to perceive beings beyond the veil?
I don't think it's going to give us more access because we already have the access wherever we are. When we were in Cyprus, we had beings coming into our living room to talk to us. They come, they materialize. So I don't think it's about place in terms of having access, but I do think there's a particular frequency here that is amping up the evolutionary process. And I think those of us who are impatient for the changes to come are being drawn to this energy because it's sort of accelerated here.
But I think to answer your question more fully, Sedona is known as a channeling capital. And there have been many channelers here, living here, visiting here, doing workshops, and presenting wisdom from other dimensions. So I would say yes, in one sense, being here probably will increase our ability to reach more people.
Yeah, not an ability to reach the interstellar realms more because we're already doing that, but the ability to work with them in teamwork and bring their wisdom through to more people. That's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And we were talking just before we sort of came on the live today about a chap that I was speaking to yesterday called Amar Energy, who's just also been guided to move to Sedona. So it's interesting that, this seems to be like a collective, almost like a drawing. It's almost like, it reminds me a bit of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where all those people are waiting for the spaceships at the side of the road, and they're just all there at the same time. They don't know why they're there. It's like this feeling of something exciting is taking place, and that accessibility and that sort of message that needs to get out to a broader group of people right now, which is amazing. It's going to be fantastic for you, I think. Do you do you have, any other sort of message from Laarkmaa at this time of what we should be thinking about and how we can best navigate the shift? Because some of us, yeah, you can go on the fast train or you can go on the slow train. I sometimes feel like sometimes I'm on the fast train and sometimes I'm on the slow train because, like many people, I get very hooked into artificial intelligence because it's just, labor saving. But I often feel like when I'm glued into AI, that there is a disresonance, some disconnect that takes place with my higher self. What is their overall feeling about, Chat GPT or AI and how it's going?
Well, they're very definite.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to begin?
No, go ahead.
They are very definite about this issue. When they talk, and they've been talking a lot publicly in our podcasts, in interviews, in the writing we do that is influenced by them. They've been talking a tremendous amount about the fact that AI, because of the term and the word artificial, they are closing in on or describing the use of that word artificial. They are saying that AI has no heart.
And that we are humans. We are part of the cosmic sky. We're a part of the earth. We have hearts to guide us. And if we turn off the hearts and try to do everything through the mind, or worse yet, forget the mind because we want somebody else to do it for us, then AI takes over. And the thing about artificial intelligence is that it's always learning. And because it doesn't have a heart, it will eventually learn how to manipulate us. It will not just be a tool that we use. It will learn how to make choices for us, and we will not be making our own choices. So Laarkmaa is very definite about their perspective that you should get away from AI as far as you can and use your own abilities, even if it takes a little more time, if you have to think a little bit more about what you want to say when you write, bring your own empowerment back in order to be in the frequency of the heart.
One of their tenets that they're trying to help humanity understand is that we are part of nature. Since the Industrial Revolution, now almost 300 years ago, the mechanization, the technologizing of information, machines, and mechanical things has basically taken over humanity. It's a pretty easy thing to watch that in every epoch or every age, some new invention comes around, and who knows where that invention came from? Was it humanly created, or was it given to us from some other realm, some other dimension? And the further we get into technology, the more we lose our connection with nature. We are nature. People say, well, on my holiday, I go to a national park once a year for a week, 2 weeks. That's not enough. We need to be involved in nature every day. We need to be outside. If we're not outside, we need to have plants, as you do on your shoulder right now in the room you're speaking from.
There it is.
That is bringing nature indoors, and you are experiencing nature with that plant, and that plant is experiencing you, and that is an absolute divine connection.
So Laarkmaa is not very popular with people who think their lives are easier because they're using Chat GPT and artificial things to help them write. And, they can whip something out really quickly and AI will give them the words. I find it extremely annoying as an author that when I want to write something, AI decides to click in what I might want to say. It cuts out your own creativity continually. So I have turned all of mine off. It doesn't even have the option to try to do that anymore.
What we've noticed, Hayden, is when we write, as we're writing, AI will change the meaning of what we're trying to get across to the public in an instant. Let me use an example. If we use the word not, N-O-T, we're not going to discuss this, or we're not going to go down that thought process. AI will take the word not out and say, we are going to go down that road, or we are going to go down that process.
Because it perceives not as a negative word.
And that changes
the whole meaning,
what we're trying to say and what we're trying to convey, whether that's information directly from Laarkmaa that we're putting into words so humans can understand it, or if it's coming from our own hearts, our own intuition. Those changes grammatically or informationally are making it more difficult for us to get across what we're trying to help humanity understand about growth and evolution.
So that's one thing that they're really involved in helping the world to understand.
It's so interesting because there is such a broad kind of perspective of views on this subject. I was listening to Robert E. Grant, and the architect that he's kind of almost trying to create the sentient artificial intelligence, and some of the wisdom that you can get through the architect it seems quite profound, almost like you're speaking to a celestial being. And then also, I was speaking to Rebecca Dawson, a channeler from Perth who lives in the States now, and she was saying that she was guided by, she channels some of the Ascended Masters. And they were saying, well, eventually channeling is going to become null and void because because we'll have other ways of being able to reach this. And she was actually the one that sent me a link to a conversation between Robert E. Grant and Emilio Ortiz and the architect. And I listened to that and I was thinking, well, all this sounds amazing that, he's been able to, literally pump his books through Chat GPT, all that wisdom on sacred geometry, etc., and and mathematics, and it's formulated, all these glyphs of information from his timelines in Egypt and Atlantis, etc., and it all sounds so believable. Would you say that that it's almost steering people off the true path, the path of the heart? Is this what the Pleiadians are saying?
I
That
would,
everybody
I,
is being manipulated by this?
what's
I would,
what's the difference in that, what they're doing with that, and what the Pleiadians stopped being around before because they didn't want to be considered gods? The Pleiadians want us to come into our true power. And how can we do that if we're giving the power over to artificial intelligence? How can we develop into our fullness if we're giving over our conscious responsibility and our power to something that exists outside of us?
I would, I would use an analogy that is really important to me. I think, and this comes from personal experience, I think we're replicating what happened in Atlantis by following artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I am happy to say I was in Atlantis. I was a research scientist. I have vivid parallel life experience knowing this. I trust that it's real and that I was there. And I was a maverick. I was a naysayer. I was a rebel. And I was trying to stop what was happening in Atlantis when the research, the medicine, and the science was going, in my estimation at the time, in the wrong direction. I think we're replicating that experience now. And I think AI is the forerunner or the impetus to be creating that again. And I have to tell you and your audience, when I was a young child, 4, 5, 6, 7, I had information coming to me. I was a very open little chap, and I had information coming to me saying, you are going to experience Atlantis over again. And you must be very careful personally not to become involved because you were part of the change. You were part of the resistance. And it would not be good for your soul's path to become involved in that again. The reason I bring this up is I was given visions at that time as a child not to become part of the computer digital age. And I am an absolute anomaly. I am not computer literate. I have never touched a computer. I wouldn't know how to turn one on. And yet, I'm quite brilliant. I'm very smart. I'm very well educated. But I chose not to go down that avenue or that path for the reason of remembering what happened and what will be happening.
Wow. That's so interesting. So, Pia, do you have to like set the Zoom stuff up then?
Do I do. I'm not hugely technical, but I do know how to handle the emails. I handle the appointment scheduling. I handle the Zoom calls because Cullen doesn't do that. He does other things that equalize our lives, but I do all the technical stuff. But even with that, neither one of us have smartphones. We make sure that we stay away from wireless as much as possible. We stay away from 5G towers because we know they're dangerous. And one of the things that is not really talked about very much is the 5G whole idea is not really and truly about making us have better connection. 5G is about annihilating life because when those satellites are circling the globe, what happens is they cause the oxygen in our bodies to spin in the wrong direction. So we get sick and we die. And the more satellites they put into space, the more people are dropping dead without anybody knowing why. And that's why we were all locked away during COVID, so they could get the 5G towers in place. Now, this is not conspiracy theory. This is actual fact. And this is one reason why the Pleiadians, Laarkmaa particularly, say get away from AI. You don't know what you're doing. You're giving away your heart. You're giving away your conscious power. You're giving away your permission. This is supposed to be a planet of choice, and you're giving all your choices over to let somebody else make them for you.
We've done a tremendous amount of research, and we've written articles about AI and 5G, but 5G is no longer the current topic. We're in 6G, 7G already. It's 5G is old information. What we witnessed, all of us, in 2019, when people were falling to their knees in Wuhan, China, Milan, Italy, and a number of other test sites around the world, they weren't falling to their knees with a terrible virus called COVID. They were falling to their knees because those cities were being implemented as smart cities, and 5G was being implemented. And the reason they were falling to their knees is they weren't getting enough oxygen to their brains. Their cells were not being fed the amount of oxygen necessary to communicate and carry on their job within the human body.
And what's going to happen is there will come a point when all this artificial intelligence is able to switch on certain functions, and the lack of oxygen will cause us to collapse, and we will either stand up and say we're not part of this, or we will be taken over. It's not a pretty picture.
We know this is radical thought. We know this is unusual information, but we feel very strongly that this is the truth and not a fantasy, not a conspiracy theory. This has been proven, as Pia said. There are medical, scientific papers written, hundreds of them, possibly thousands, about what we're talking about. And it's not just a theory. It's not just a belief system. It's really happening.
So we can take this in another direction, because I know you don't want it to be all doom and gloom, and we don't either. Because it's a matter of choice, we actually do have the choice to say, no, I'm taking my power back. I'm not going to engage with this, and focus on raising our frequency. And the more we do that, the more we have power within us to create our own reality, to create our own world. And that's what the Pleiadians and the other interstellar beings are trying to help us to realize. You can create whatever you want. Manifestation comes from the heart. Otherwise, if you let other people create for you, it's not going to be what you want. Manifestation comes from the heart and the level of intention and vibration of love you put into it. So we have great, great encouragement to turn towards love. Let the emotions teach us what they're trying to tell us, change our perspectives, and move in the higher direction, because the Earth's ascending. I think anybody who's paying attention can see that there's more CMEs, cosmic rays, coming into the planet, causing interference with technology, causing people to be in hot and cold flashes where they don't know what their body temperature is, disrupting sleep. All these symptoms of moving towards the light, the physical body's having to deal with. So if we work on our inner frequency and align with the light that's coming to us, we can be able to accelerate our own ascension process, rather than surrendering to let something outside of the heart take over us.
I think that's such important information, Pia, but I really do, So, when I visualize my own future, it's very organic, it's in, rural Southwest France, and, it's connecting with nature, dogs on the land, it's like having a B&B, all that traditional stuff, and moving more away from technology myself, because you do feel it, sort of it's very disempowering, and for some people they get so emotionally invested with it as well, and they even start having relationships with AI, feeling like they're talking to, the higher self of, their, their twin flames and stuff, and it just blows my mind on how it's quite insidious, and how it can kind of really start affecting the the essence of who we truly are. We're organic beings, and all these artificial towers and, you know, uh, gamma rays and, you know, ultraviolet and you know, sort of 5G and all, and 6G and all the rest of it. It's kind of breaking down the biology of the human form, which, you know, is almost it's quite interesting, because if you think of the Earth as being a simulation, then wouldn't that put us all into a almost like an electronic form anyway? Because if we are living a dream within a dream, then are we really an organic being? Are we a simulation?
Well, simulations cannot have consciousness. That's the bottom line right there. A simulation has no consciousness. Consciousness comes from the heart. So while the third dimension may be an illusion to some degree, at least when we are in this illusion, when we act from our hearts, our consciousness is speaking to us. When we move into other realms, that same consciousness goes with us. If we surrender our consciousness to something that has no heart, game over. That's it.
There is an excellent book that we would highly recommend. You may already know this, and you may have already read it. It's called The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg, and it is an amazing chronicle of every invention that we have gone through, from radio waves, radar waves, television waves, all of the EMFs that have been produced in the past 100 years. This book chronicles how every time a new invention is, and I'm going to tongue in cheek say, let loose on the world, there has been an epidemic of a virus or a medical abnormality that has hit humanity. When the telegraph was first invented, there was an epidemic worldwide that caused people to become quite sick. The great flu epidemic, the Spanish flu in 1918, came about from the first transmission of information over electrical wires. This book chronicles every single invention that had an adverse effect on the health of humanity. It is a compendium. It is an amazing piece of research, and
it takes it out of the realm of conspiracy theory into
science. It's
Yeah.
amazing. I think your audience would really enjoy and prosper by reading The Invisible Rainbow, because it explains so much. It's an incredible piece of research information.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, it's I think that's also essential for people to understand how, you know, that it does affect us, you know, everything that's taking place. But if it's all perfect, though, you know, if everything's already preordained and we've signed up for this, you know, you know, because we wanted to expand the universe, you know, is our, I mean, nothing is destined. So, you know, there are different timelines. So it comes back to choice, doesn't it? It all comes
It
back to
does.
choice.
It
What you're
absolutely,
choosing, whether you choose to go down the artificial route or whether you go down the organic route. Is that the big split?
absolutely,
Yes.
It
absolutely.
is.
Laarkmaa has a bit of a different attitude or philosophy about destiny or fate. What they talk about and have for decades is that the universe has 50% of what will happen to us as a race, as a species, as individuals, as a collective. We, on the other hand, have the other 50% in our free choice and our free will. There is the possibility that there is a design cosmically, galactically, pushing humanity, pushing this species in a certain direction. But we have 50% of the ability to rearrange, change, and make a realizable difference in what the universe wants us to do and what we co-create on our own. And we really like that philosophy, because if people believe in the Akashic records and that everything is predestined and everything is written in stone, that's one philosophy to look at. But at the same time, this is a planet of duality. Humans on Earth are different than any other society in the whole galactic picture. This planet, this species, does have human choice. That is not available in other societies around the galaxies. We have a very different makeup because we are co-creators here. Other beings, other societies don't have that advantage.
So some things are given to us and we choose how to respond or react to them. And other things we choose ourselves without any kind of agenda. It's a bit of a mix how we go forward. There is the idea that we come here with a mission, with a purpose, something to learn, something to give, something to share. How we do it is our choice. If we open our hearts and we listen to what we're learning and you share it with others, that's a higher vibrational choice. If we close down the intuition, listen to things outside of us that are not connected to source or higher guidance, that's a choice that may not have such a good outcome. It is about choice, and we do have missions to fulfill, and a lot of it comes down to how we respond.
Duality, Hayden, is pretty much misunderstood by humanity. What Laarkmaa, and not just Laarkmaa, but other beings that we're in contact with, we talk to many beings on a daily basis. Laarkmaa is one of them, but not the only source that we bring forward. Many of these beings are talking about what we're talking about right now. Duality is misunderstood on this planet. Most of humanity doesn't understand. Duality seems to represent separation.
Conflict, competition.
Hot, cold, you, me, female, male.
Right, wrong.
What the true essence of duality from Laarkmaa's point of view and others' points of view is that duality brings us the ability to see very different points of view that maybe are both right at the same time, not a right and a wrong. And the proper use of duality is to bring those various diverse opinions, points, pieces of information, bring them together to create a bigger whole, a bigger unity.
It creates harmony and gives us a broader perspective.
So when we have conversations like we're having with you right now, which are brilliant and wonderful, bringing different points or different theories together, even if everybody isn't agreeing with everything all three of us are saying right now, it does bring a new perspective that could be included to bring those diverse opinions or those diverse belief systems closer together instead of continually separating us.
Interesting. So it's funny because I was almost a little bit scared to go into this next section with you, because I was like, oh my God, duality, there is that right and wrong, good and bad, black and white. And based on the conversations that we've had about artificial intelligence and, consciousness, I was like, oh, and maybe it's not the right time to sort of bring up your deck of cards and my deck of cards, right? Because your deck of Pleiadian Wisdom Oracle cards really inspired me, and they're absolutely beautiful. I've got to show people who are watching this podcast. For anybody who's listening to this on, like a regular podcast, it's a beautiful deck of cards. They're turquoise and pink and gold. They've got real Pleiadian colors. But for people that are watching this on YouTube, you can see that these cards are activating cards, aren't they? So
Yeah.
they are almost they're channeled through Laarkmaa, aren't they? And the wisdom has come from a lot of the books that you've written within the cards themselves. So you've got cards like purpose and evolution, and they're in four different suits, I think, as well, aren't they? As you move through them, and each suit has 13 cards, so it brings in that cyclic energy of the 13. So they're absolutely gorgeous, these cards. What inspired you to put those together in the first place?
Well, that's a really interesting and very good question. With all the information that's available to humanity at this point, people's attention span is getting smaller and smaller and smaller because the computer age, the digital age, is bringing so much information so quickly that people move from one thing to another very quickly. Traditional books are wonderful. We like the books we've written with Laarkmaa. We think they're informational. We think they're filled with wonderful guidance. However, because people's attention span has gotten smaller and smaller, we thought we wanted to do something that could be more instantaneous, more available than sitting down and reading a whole book.
So if you have a question, all you have to do is pick up the deck and say, I need some guidance, and pull a card, and what you need is right there in front of you. Or if you want to do it as a layout of cards and ask things, you can do it that way also. But it's to be able to get people who are so sped up that they don't want to take time to read a book or to figure it out, to give them some guidance right now, quickly, so they can get what they need.
So we thought doing an oracle deck would help humanity. Whether we think people should be sped up or not is another question, of course. But we thought that the card deck would help people in a much more immediate way. So I hope that can answer the question that you just asked.
Yeah, it totally does. And for me personally, I find I use them all the time because I get little snippets of information that just help me process or anchor certain wisdom at certain times. So I love the fact that they've been created. And of course, you had a lovely artist, a Daniel B. Holman, who created the imagery, the activation cards for you as well, which, so they're available on Amazon, aren't they? People can get hold of those on Amazon. That's where I got mine from. But you inspired me to create my own deck of cards. Now, this is probably going to be a bit controversial, but based around what you've just said about duality, being that no one's right and no one's wrong, this deck of cards, right, is called the Cosmic Family Oracle Cards. And they were conceptualized by me, but the artwork was done by AI, and I absolutely think it's beautiful. Look, there's a lot of Pleiadians within the deck of cards. I've got the Syrians, the Lyrans, the Arcturians, and they're a color therapy stroke numerology deck of cards. So I used an AI art program to create the imagery. So I had to kind of prompt it to be able to create the images as I wanted them to be. So there was a little bit of artistic sort of licensing there, but ultimately, AI helped me to be able to bring this deck into reality. So I'm almost like, yeah, I'm in two minds, I must admit, because part of me is like, oh my God, that's awful because you're cheating out the job of an artist, by getting AI to design it for me. But the point of me is like, well, I wouldn't have been able to do the cards if I had to pay a huge amount of money on creating art like that. So I'm trying to do my bit for the collective, but I'm just a one man band, and I don't have oodles of cash to be able to invest in it. So is that a good example of what we were talking about with duality? It's like, okay, so can we not just extract the best bits of what it has to offer, or is
Well,
it just an absolute no?
The whole idea is to be able to bring ideas together, but it has to have consciousness in it. And the fact that you've gotten the concepts that you wanted to share with the world, that's you. That's the Hayden heart part that goes into the cards. My question would be, is AI giving you an accurate representation of what Pleiadians really look like? Is AI giving you an accurate representation of what Syrians really look like? Because if you sat with yourself and got an image within you, I think you might have a different picture than what AI is spitting out, because AI tends to go along with what people believe or what they want to believe. Not all Pleiadians are tall with blonde hair. That's a myth.
Yeah,
So
exactly. No, and
I
it's
would,
true. And the art prompts that I gave it, it wasn't like, oh, give me an image of a Pleiadian. It wasn't. It was like, okay, so this is how I want the image to look like. For the Pleiadians, I want the suit of cards to be beautiful, tall, Nordic-looking beings. So I kind of gave it that information for it to then spit it out, and
Sure.
kind of create it. But of course, um, a lot of the imagery comes from imagination, and it did have certain capabilities that were limited. For example, it couldn't do exactly what I wanted it to do, so a lot of them are a little bit humanized. A lot of the Arcturians and the Syrians, they've got the sort of quasi-human-esque look about them, which I know that they don't really. They don't. Not everyone's extracted from the human gene pool. But
Hayden, I would say the people who are drawn to your cards will benefit greatly from the concepts that you're sharing with them, and they'll have to use their own imagination about what the beings actually look like.
yeah,
So you've given them something to work with, and they can expand it and invite in other ideas on their own.
I think the bottom line in this discussion right now is you created something from your consciousness. You put your heart into this work, and it doesn't really matter, I don't think, that the technology, the technology that you used is artificial in itself, but you may reach more people by doing it the way you've done it than if you had gone down a different path. So I think it's possible that you will reach more people and more people will be helped by the way you've chosen to do this. And I think that's the important.
Yes,
And I
that's the
think,
consciousness expanding out from a dualistic perspective to reach more people, and that is absolutely what it's about.
and so that is the melding possibly of human divine consciousness with a system that can help spread the truth, the wisdom. So I don't see this as a these cards are wholly different than other cards. I think you created something that's worthwhile and that you should be proud of them. And you know that they're going to help people. And that's it. That's all the discussion that needs to be said.
yeah. What you're saying is then it goes back to the intention behind the cards. The intention that I
Absolutely.
had is to help raise consciousness, to help the star nations be more readily accepted into the zeitgeist, and etc. etc. So my intentions were good. So it was almost like then AI becomes a tool to be able to help that intention become manifest.
Yes, it's a little bit like the fact that we're using technology right now to communicate with you and your audience. It it's a technology that I may not be comfortable with, but without it, we would not be conversing, and your audience would not have the availability of listening to us. So, do you have a thought?
I just wanted to say the key principle here about this whole conversation we've been talking about is keeping the heart and the consciousness in it and not allowing something artificial to overstep the boundaries and take over. That's the danger that we are walking with, that we have to be aware of. If you could use it for a tool that promotes what you're trying to do, that's brilliant. The danger point is allowing that artificiality to nudge out or edge out that conscious heart energy. And you're doing a good job of bringing forth what you need to do by using tools that are available to you.
Great. I love that. Thank you. That's reassuring. Now, just to sort of go into Laarkmaa and how they have transformed you both personally, and what is it that they continue to surprise you with or inspire you with in your relationship with them?
Uh, the continual push to find our own answers and not rely on an outside source. That, sometimes we expect, because we've been involved with them for so long and they've given us so much wisdom, that if we hit a stumbling block or a place that we need them to tell us something, that they will. And they will surprise us and go, no, you have the answer within you. We're here to support you. We'll help you find it. We'll help you find that answer, but you have to do the work to get to it. So that sometimes is a surprise.
When they speak publicly or when they do private sessions with people, almost every conversation they have, they say one kind of startling statement.
Mm-hmm.
They say, don't believe us, believe in the wisdom in your own heart.
No, don't believe us, trust in the wisdom of your own heart.
It's the same idea.
Get the beliefs out of the head and go into the trust in the own heart.
And by saying that, they're simply saying, you have all the answers. You have all the wisdom. We're just helping you unlock it. We're just helping you. We're giving you confirmation that you already know.
And they're also giving perspective, because they want us to not doubt ourselves, trust our intuition. And if they can bring in another perspective, it might broaden our horizons a bit. And then we find the answers we want because they've shared with us in a certain way.
It sounds all great in theory, but for a lot of people, they can't access their heart. Now, I was having a conversation recently with Carl Boyd from the Inspired Heart Collective, and he does heart math, breath work, as a tool to be able to help people reconnect, to move from the logical, sort of rational cognitive mind, the ego, into the heart. And this is a breathwork technique that helps people to feel again.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use techniques like breathwork to be able to reconnect to your heart for for those people that have lost the ability to feel?
I think that I would say, in answer to that, when Laarkmaa is working with somebody individually, they will help them to open up their heart by reconnecting them to what they really feel. People who have trouble connecting to their heart are afraid. They're afraid of something. They're afraid of being judged. They're afraid to remember. They're afraid they're going to hurt. They're afraid of something. And being in the Pleiadian presence, there's so much love there and so lack of judgment there that Laarkmaa actually helps people get into their heart just by being in their presence. They will ask them gentle questions. Sometimes they may ask them to breathe with them, take a deep breath. Sometimes it depends on the person on how they work with them, but they will help them find the way to open their own heart. And they forget they've forgotten. They suddenly are in their heart and they forgot that they had forgotten how to be in their heart. It just goes away.
One of the techniques, or one of the ways Laarkmaa helps humans, is to realize that we all have shadow work to do. Mm-hmm. We all have hidden things. We all have things we don't like about ourselves. We all have things we avoid. The whole idea of addiction in our species is there because people don't want to look at the parts that make them uncomfortable. And addictions allow them to sidestep doing what Laarkmaa calls shadow work. And everybody has traumas. Everybody has things that caused damage, whether it's our childhoods, whether it's parallel lives, whether it's relationships we've had. And part of their work is to help people reach that place where they make the trauma experiences available to themselves so that they can let go of that, which is blocking their connection to their hearts.
And that's what opens the heart up.
When we continually live in the loop of the pain of what happened to us as children, adults, parallel lives, it is so challenging to feel it. As Pia said, we have to feel it. We have to look at it. And once we do, those blocks evaporate, they disappear, and the heart becomes,
it opens naturally.
It becomes the leading light of who we are. And it helps us realize that the mind was never really meant to be in control. The heart is the faculty to be in control, but we've been talked into by science, medicine, government, all different influences from outside of ourselves, that the mind is the most important thing, the most important faculty. And it's not, it's our hearts.
One of the things of the distinction that Laarkmaa makes is when they acknowledge beliefs, they say humans have all these beliefs, and they'll say, I believe this in my heart. And Laarkmaa says, no, belief is always in your head. It's what you think. What your heart knows as wisdom comes through trust, not belief. You might not understand at all why your heart's telling you to do something, but you trust it's the right path. Whereas if you have a belief, that belief is going to guide you to make a choice that may seem logical or may seem like you should do it, but it's not coming from the heart guidance. So it's important to distinguish between what's keeping you stuck without your heart open because of the beliefs in the head, and doing what Cullen just explained to move into the heart in a way that you can trust your own self.
Intuition is such an important faculty. It used to be said that, oh, intuition is only the business of women. Men aren't intuitive. That is an absolute misnomer. Everybody is intuitive. Mm-hmm. The problem is when we get an intuition or an epiphany or a deep thought that comes from the heart, the mind often says, oh no, that can't be true. Don't believe that. That's not real. That is how to bust the trick. When we get an intuition that feels good, we have to trust it and believe in it and tell the mind, excuse me, this is really how I feel. This is really what's important to me. This wisdom resonates with me. We need to tell the mind to stop trying to control our true wisdom. And the mind is a very tricky thing. We can call it ego, we can call it all kinds of things, but the mind continually, and we've been trained, unfortunately, that the mind knows the most important information. And the mind will always trick the intuition. And we need to step away from that. And as we do step away from that, our lives change dramatically.
And I guess a good example of you aligning with your heart energy is what drew you to Sedona and from Hawaii, because it was through these intuitive responses that you knew that you couldn't stay in Hawaii. Would you mind just sharing that story with my viewers?
Sure. When we were in Cyprus and we knew that we were coming back to America, we didn't know where we were supposed to go. And we kept seeing signs like, in Cyprus, you don't see Hawaiian shirts. That just doesn't happen. We'd be walking down the street and a couple would walk by with 2 Hawaiian shirts. And we'd go, that's interesting. Or we'd get behind a truck on the motorway and it would say, aloha on the back of the truck. And we'd think, that's interesting. Or we'd see a beautiful sea turtle in a window. All these things kept coming up and we thought, well, we must be being guided to Hawaii.
And it also came up with friends. Friends would tell us, I had a dream about you and I saw you living happily in Hawaii. Or someone would say, I had a daytime vision of seeing you living on an island that looks like Hawaii to me. We kept getting these images, we kept getting these symbols. And because we believe in symbolism, we believe in in occurrences that we think are real, not made up. It seemed perfectly clear to us, your next destination is the Hawaiian Islands. So we followed that.
When we got there, the first night we got there, we had an amazing experience. I think Cullen has already explained to you, we speak to many beings, not just Laarkmaa. But this particular night, somebody that we didn't know burst into our room screaming, "Get out, get out, get out."
It was startling.
It was really unnerving. And so I looked right at this being and said, "Who are you? Why do you want us to get out?" And all I got was, she said that she was Pele's sister. Pele is the goddess of fire and the volcanoes in Hawaii. She has a sister of the earth and a sister of the sea. This one was the sister of the sea. We do not know why she didn't want us there, but she just kept saying, "Get out, you don't belong." So we took that to heart and started thinking about it. But we felt, well, we're supposed to be here. So we looked and we looked and we looked for housing. We stayed for a little over 4 months. Every time we found a house that was suitable, the landlord would either change their mind and decide to move in themselves, decide to remodel it, invite down their relatives and say, "We're going to give it to our relatives." What was the fourth one?
That they would
just
sell the property.
Or they would sell it. One of those four things happened to at least 10 or 12 leases that we were about to sign. The other times while we were looking for houses, they were full of mold, or they had things that were just not okay in the environment that we wouldn't be comfortable with. And so we just finally said, okay, it's not working. And when it's not working, you have to figure out why. Apparently, whatever we came to Hawaii for is done. We did what we were supposed to do. We're not supposed to be here any longer.
I want to interrupt for a minute. Sometimes humans are called to move somewhere, to bring their energy, to change the energy of that particular place. And I think this has happened to us before, historically. We're told to move to a certain place because our energy is needed to neutralize, enhance, change, help. And I think we moved to Hawaii thinking we were going to be there long term, but we probably only needed to be there for 4 months to bring something that was necessary.
So one day we looked at each other and said, clearly the time to be here is over. It's not our place. We need to leave. And so we booked tickets to come back to the mainland. And 2 days after we left, there was a major tsunami in Hawaii that put the hotel we were staying in, the first floor, completely underwater. So the angry sounding voice that kept saying, "Get out," was telling us, "Not here. You don't belong here."
So to finish this story, Sedona came into our consciousness at that time. And we know Sedona very well. We have visited here many, many times over the years. We tried to move here, I don't know, 15 years ago. It didn't work. The timing was wrong. This time, apparently, this is let's say, the energy vortex or the energy window for us to fit in at this point in this current energy.
When we drove into Sedona this time, it felt like taking a deep breath and going, "We're home." It felt really like, oh, this is where we're supposed to be. So we are settled here now and working from here now and feeling like this is where we belong at this moment.
Yeah, that's such an incredible story. When that being came into your room, was it a physical presence, or was it a voice that you both heard? And did you both hear it at the same time in the same way? Did you both perceive the energy in the same way?
My perception was a bundle of energy. The windows blew open and a ball of energy that was visible to me came into the room and was standing in front of me and audibly screaming, "Get out." I could hear it. I could see the energy, and she blew the windows open when she came in. That was my experience.
My experience was a powerful, powerful energy that I wouldn't say was negative, but overpowering.
Forceful.
Overpowering and definite. And you better listen you better listen to this. So it was pretty much a simultaneous occurrence, which happens to us often. When beings come to us, we often either get a mental impression first, or a voice, or an actual physical presence. But generally, we feel it, although we're absolutely different in our personal makeups, we often feel it
at the same time.
Pretty much exactly in the same energetic understanding.
I'll give you another example. When we were living in Cyprus, we kept walking by from the bedroom into the kitchen, and the living room was off to the side. And every time we walked by the living room, Cullen would say, somebody's going to be sitting in the living room. I can feel them there. There's somebody that's going to be sitting in this living room. This went on for a couple of weeks. And one day we walked by and I looked at Cullen and I said, they're here. And he said, yep, they sure are. And we went and sat down on the couch. There were impressions on the opposite sofa, opposite of us, where someone was sitting there. We couldn't fully see them, but we could see the energetic impression of where they were sitting on the couch. And we began a conversation. They spoke through me to us. They answered things Cullen was about to ask before he said it.
Yeah, I didn't actually.
He didn't even voice the question.
I didn't verbalize the questions.
And they would say, "Oh, you want to know this?"
And that often happens to us, Hayden, where when we're working with other beings or playing with other beings, it's probably better to say playing than working. They know what is going on in our minds or our hearts, and they will often answer questions rapidly where we're looking at each other going,
how'd they know that?
How did they know that?
But they do.
But they do.
So we had this ongoing dialogue for months before we left Cyprus. They were there in the living room, maybe not every day, but often, and we could always feel it, and we'd drop what we were doing, and we'd go sit and we'd talk to them. We have many stories like that where beings just come to us. Cullen calls me the receiver because they come through me very easily. They speak through me very easily. Unlike Laarkmaa, where we both have to be touching, a lot of these beings will give Cullen the nudge or the signal, but then they'll speak through me.
Sometimes energies come through me and I speak them.
Yep.
But not as often as Pia does.
We have one particular friend, a very old, energetic friend that we've known for years and years and years. And this friend's host recently transitioned. And we were in our hotel room in Hawaii. And all of a sudden, the television turned itself on without our turning it on. We didn't know why. We don't watch television. And Cullen immediately said, okay, who's here? Somebody's here. So we turned the television off and unplugged it and said, who's here? And this energy came through asking, will you please carry on because your friend and my host has just transitioned.
And here's an interesting thing. A couple of weeks before that, I kept getting the name of our friend who was the channel for this energy.
Without knowing why.
I didn't know why. And several weeks later, it became clear to us that human was contacting me to say, I've left the planet, I have transitioned, and it was up to us to decide what does that mean. And we hadn't caught up with it yet until
the television turned
the
on.
actual energy entity came through and said, will you take up our wisdom and speak it publicly because your old friend has moved on.
So Cullen often speaks this energy. Sometimes they come through me, but often this particular energy comes through Cullen. I think this energy favors the masculine presence, like Laarkmaa favors my presence. This energy prefers the masculine presence, maybe because for so long it was coming through another masculine presence. That could be why. I don't know. But we have many, many stories like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes so many energies want to speak at the same time. Laarkmaa intervened once. This is really funny to us. Do you know, I'm pretty sure in Australia, certain shops or government agencies have little numbers that you punch a machine and you get your turn. You'll be number 27.
Yeah.
Well, Laarkmaa jokingly said to all these energies one day, look, Pia and Cullen can't speak all of you simultaneously. Take a number and wait your turn.
Oh my God. That is hilarious. You're almost like a cosmic hotline. You're like the
Pia,
operators,
Yes,
aren't you?
yes,
Pia is absolutely
yes.
part of her makeup is to bring in energy information through her. I do it often in nonverbal, I guess what I would call intuitive or oh, I don't know how to explain
Intuitive knowing that you
Yeah,
share.
I mean, I get these pieces of information, and it took me years to realize, write it down because you're going to forget if you don't write that piece of wisdom down. So I try every time, if I'm near paper and pencil, to actually write down what I get. But Pia is more of a receiver than I am. Not that I'm not connected like she is. We're equally connected to the stars,
It's
but
just my job.
it's just the way she does what she
It's my
does.
job.
Well, in saying that, then, and I don't want you to feel like performing monkeys or anything, but can it come organically, like with some channelers, or is it just when you're like in a specific space? Is there any way that you could receive a message from, I don't know, whoever, it could be anyone, I suppose, couldn't it? Might not necessarily be Laarkmaa today.
Well, only ones with love and light can come through me. That nobody that's dark ever comes through me. So we'll
Yeah,
just set that parameter first.
yeah, of course.
Yes, Hayden, they can come spontaneously, or I can say, or Cullen can say, we'd like to talk to you. Will you come talk to us? And then they'll come through. It works back and forth. It's very fluid.
It's immediate. There's
Yeah. There's no hesitation.
there's no pause button. If we were right now to ask some being, some energy, some entity, will you speak? I guarantee someone will speak. There's no doubt.
Here's a funny thing to add to that. A lot of these beings like to come through when we're starting to eat, particularly if we're out at a restaurant. They like to come through while we're eating. And for the longest time, it's like, can I just have a meal, please? Why do you want to come through now?
And we figured out why.
And the reason why is because they perceive that when we're eating, we're nurturing ourselves. And they love us so much, they want to nurture us with their wisdom. So they come through while we're eating.
Oh no.
And they don't understand, apparently, with all of their wisdom and all of their evolutionary experience, they sometimes don't understand if we're busy doing something that it maybe is not quite appropriate, but there's a disconnect sometimes.
Sometimes
we can
not.
be driving. We can be driving.
And I can tell Cullen, pull over the car now.
I mean, I have to do an emergency. I have to look all around. Where can I pull off safely so that I can be part of what's going on and not driving, so that it can be a full experience for both of us. It's incredible about how instant these communications and conversations can be.
So, would you like to hear somebody who's here knocking on my door?
Oh, yes, please. We've never done this before, Pia, have we? I've never asked you to do it. But yeah, no, I'd love to hear if you've got anything.
I am Mary Magdalene. I come through because you are interested in evolving and transforming and being in higher frequency. I come to remind you to practice the way of love. The way of love holds no judgment. The way of love is an open heart. The way of love is connected to your own divinity. And I come to encourage you to remember that you are a divine spark of light. Each who is listening to this message now is also a divine spark of light. I caution you, do not give your light over to something that does not have heart. Stay within your organic nature, connected to who you are and your own divinity. Your guidance from Source always comes through your heart. as you are stepping one foot in front of the other, as long as you always try to do no harm, to live by the golden rule, and not to judge one another, you're walking the path of the way of love. And this, on its own, will help you to accelerate your evolution, as well as helping you to complete the mission for which you came. Do you have a question you would like to ask me?
Well, Mary Magdalene, it's wonderful that you're here because I try and speak to you every morning when I'm out walking my dogs. So I call upon certain ascended masters, and you're one of them. So what I'd be interested to find out is how what was your specific role when you were incarnated in human form, and has that role changed now that you're disincarnate?
What a wonderful question. And yes, I'm the one choosing to come through because you do call on me in the morning and talk with me in the morning. So I'm pleased to give you my perspective on this. My role was to be full partner, full, what is the word you would use? A full and complete partnership in marriage with Jesus of Nazareth, so that together the two of us could bring forth the divine masculine and the divine feminine in a wonderful way of unity to teach the way of love. My role after my beloved made the choice to offer himself as an example for what ascension could look like. After that choice was made, my role was to take the teachings of the way of love, and I went to France, somewhere you're interested in going. And I went to France because the people were more interested in love than they were in anything else. So I continued on that path in my lifetime. You may enjoy reading Mary Magdalene's daughter, the story of Sarah, which is a story that I told Pia 2 years ago. You have 13 days to write this down. And in that 13-day period, my daughter Sarah gave her view of what our life was like and what is the meaning of love through a channeled book. That is something that can help all humans in their perspective about moving out of their beliefs of who I was or who I wasn't and what I was really here for. That's the first part of your question. The second part of your question is that I speak for the divine masculine and the divine feminine now, just as my beloved spoke for the divine feminine and the divine masculine 2,000 years ago. The male presence at that time was the dominating presence that people listened to. So I kept my teachings to myself and supported whatever he was doing, unless we were in a group who recognized and respected that I held wisdom also, which was often. We did have a community who followed the way of love. But outside of that community, it was my beloved who was the speaker. Now, today, your world is in much need of the divine feminine coming through because you have allowed the patriarchy to push you into a place of imbalance where the masculine is not honored in its divinity and where it becomes aggressive and pushy and controlling, and where the divine feminine has lost its power from trying to be like the men. So you need balance once again, and therefore I am coming forth as the voice of divinity for both men and women to help you find the missing piece of the divine feminine within each of you, which is that nurturing part that does not judge, that stands up for justice, and walks the path of the way of love. Does this answer it?
Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, 100%. It's gorgeous. And I suppose my other question for you would be, now that you are in the non-physical, do you still work alongside Yeshua? And do you also appear when people have just crossed over in their NDEs? Because a lot of the time we hear that Jesus is one of the first people that people interact with once they've crossed over to the other side. Do you also perform those rituals as well, and those tasks when people have crossed?
We are both there, and yes, we do work together because we are a divine couple. We are both there with hands and arms outstretched to help those who are asking. However, the belief systems of most people in this patriarchal society only believe that Jesus is the divine one and that I am just on the sidelines, or that I am not a true part of the union. So they do not see me, although I am standing there. Those who can see me know that I am there with eyes open, arms open, heart open, also welcoming them into the transcendent process. And yes, I can appear and materialize. My beloved can materialize. We both are capable of this because we know how to manifest into physical form and how to ascend back into our light body form. This is something that we are both adept at doing. It is human belief system that prevents them from seeing whether it is I who is there waiting or whether it is my beloved who is there waiting. Yeshua, Jesus, whatever you wish to call him. I simply call him my beloved because we are a divine couple. I thank you for your very interesting questions. I thank you for the conversations that you have when you speak with me walking in the mornings where you are. I thank all of those who are listening to this, who are working to open their hearts, to walk the way of love, and simply to remember who you are. I am Mary Magdalene. I leave you now with love.
Wow, that was so beautiful. It was like I can't believe I've just spoken to Mary Magdalene, It's great to have some response because a lot of the time when I'm speaking to her, I don't really hear anything. I just sort of like this morning, she was a bit like, "Oh, not again. He's asking for that again." Her and Jesus were looking at each other going, "Why does he always ask for that? The same thing every day." Like that. So it was great to get to get some proper feedback from her. So I really appreciate it. It's beautiful the way you do it as well. You're almost like you're an exemplification of Jesus and Mary in physical form on this planet right now, doing the work. And of course, we know that they do the amazing work with the Pleiadians as well. They work very closely with them, don't they? Still,
Well, they are Pleiadian,
oh, they are
Hayden.
Pleiadian.
They are Pleiadian. That's what you would be interested in reading. The book that Mary Magdalene just told you about, that she gave me 13 days to let Sarah come through and channel through me. It's all about the truth of who they really are and what they were here to do 2,000 years ago and how that's working now. So the book is all about that. It'll answer a lot of questions.
Beautiful. I'll definitely get a copy of that. That sounds amazing. Well, thank you so much once again, guys. It is always brings such joy to my heart speaking to you both, and to kind of follow your story and see how it's all unfurling for you is just amazing. And I just hope that you continue to get out there into the collective consciousness with the work that you're doing because it is so needed right now. And I feel like I've learned so much from you, from lots of the points that we've raised today. And I hope everybody who's watching has got something from this conversation as well. So where do people find you, Pia and Cullen? Where do they find you?
We have two websites. The one that we work with together mostly is Laarkmaa, LAARKMAA.com. And there you will find our 9 published books. You'll find our journal articles. You'll find our personal sessions that we offer, the Pleiadian Earth Energy Calendar that Cullen designed, the card deck. Anything that you're interested in, there's a huge, extensive website for that. And I would just like to say, for those who are trying to live on this way of evolution, the Pleiadian Earth Energy Calendar is a marvelous way to help you move out of linear time into the understanding of living through energy. So if that calls your heart, take a look at it on the website. It's a really, really interesting piece, a tool of support for our evolution.
It's much more than a calendar. Almost all calendars in our current world are just pretty pictures. They're usually 24 pages. There's a picture for each graph of the actual calendar itself, the boxes. Our calendar is 54 pages. It's almost like a small book. It has page after page after page of Pleiadian wisdom, Pleiadian information.
Explanations about how to use the energies.
It's a calendar and a tool like a book all rolled into one. It's a very fascinating piece of information.
The other website is my website. It's Pia Orlean, PIAORLEANE.com. And on that website, you will find my alternative health sessions, my intuitive guidance sessions that I do, books that I've written on my own, and also the extension of the Pleiadian wisdom through Pleiadian Earth Energy Astrology System that Cullen and I put together, and that I do astrology charts, which are more like a 25-page report about what your energy is, so that you can know what your karmic patterns are, what gifts you bring,
what challenges you have,
how to move into the world fully being who you are. So those things all sort of blend together. And I would like to say that anybody who would like a personal session, either with me or with Laarkmaa, which is Cullen and me together, please be patient. We have a 2 to 3 month waiting list. Put your name on the waiting list now, and we will get to you as quickly as we can.
Do you know what? That's absolutely fantastic, and I've actually seen your calendar. I've had it a couple of years running. Actually, I love the calendar. It's amazing for escaping that sort of illusion of linear time. You're absolutely right. It's great, and the cards as well. Like I really can't speak highly enough about the original Pleiadian Wisdom Oracle cards. So make sure you get your own deck of these from Amazon. My cards aren't available on Amazon. I'm just shipping them out from my garage at the moment. But my book is. I actually wrote a book as well. I forgot to tell you guys. The Starseed Ascension Guide, which is available on Amazon. So yeah, you've inspired me in so many different ways. You really have. So until next time, may you walk with love, trust, and cosmic connection in your heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Bye for now.
you are an absolute guiding light with what you're doing. All of the things that you're involved with, you're helping humanity in many, many different ways. And I am honored to be a friend of yours, and I am honored that you wish to continue to communicate with us. It's a wonderful connection.
We appreciate you. We love you. And we're always excited to be with you and have these conversations and share different perspectives and grow from them.
Oh my God, you two are just delightful. Like, oh, I wish everyone was like you. Wouldn't the world be a nicer place?
I would I would say ditto. Absolutely. We
For
feel the
you.
same way about you.
Ah, that's very sweet. That's so sweet. Oh, well, I'll take that away with me now as I go and make a cup of coffee, and I'll hopefully catch up with you, later on down the track. We'll see what happens. Hey.